So hello kiddos of class 6, how are you all doing? I'm back with the part 2 of your second unit B reading. As you all know, it's a poem written by Sarojini Naidu and the title is In the Bazaars of Hyderabad. Well, in the part 1 of the topic, I've discussed everything about Sarojini Naidu. We looked at the life and works of Sarojini Naidu, and in this specific video we shall discuss this beautiful piece of work written by her. So before I start reading this poem, I'd like to tell you that this poem In the Bazaars of Hyderabad was written sometime during Swadeshi movement. I told you in my previous video that Sarojini Naidu was not just a great poetess but also a great freedom fighter. She participated in various freedom movements and she was a great follower of Mahatma Gandhi. Because of the fact that she participated in Swadeshi movement, which was all about boycotting foreign products and encouraging or using the native Indian products, she wrote this poetry during that Swadeshi movement. The reason behind writing this poetry was to give a message, to put out a message to the foreigners, especially the Britishers, the colonizers, that India is an efficient country and we Indians do not need any foreign product. We therefore renounce using the British made products or any imported product and stick to our own native products, because Indian markets are capable enough to produce the high quality native goods. So we no longer need imported foreign products. So patriotism is the theme of this work In the Bazaars of Hyderabad. Another theme of this poetry is that Sarojini Naidu has described the grandiosity of the bazaars of Hyderabad. She put out the vivid pictures of the traditional side of the markets of Hyderabad. Now, why did she choose only the Hyderabad bazaars? She could have chosen any other bazaar from any other place. Well, because she was born in Hyderabad, it is obvious that she will talk about Hyderabadi bazaars. So there are 6 stanzas in this poem and it is in the form of question and answer. We see that the poetess visits each seller in the bazaars of Hyderabad and she asks each of them about what he or she is selling. And all of her questions are answered by the sellers. They answer her by telling what they are actually selling. So now let us understand this poem first and then we shall understand the various literary devices used by the poetess in this poem. Literary devices are the creative devices used by poets and writers in their works. What is the use of literary devices? Well, they make the piece of work more effective, and when the reader reads such work with a lot of literary devices, it leaves a great impact on the reader. There are various such literary devices used by the poetess Sarojini Naidu. We shall discuss them in a while, but first let me start by reading each stanza. What do you sell, O ye merchants? Richly your wares are displayed, turbans of crimson and silver, tunics of purple brocade, mirror with panels of amber, daggers with handles of jade. So firstly, like I said, it's in the form of question and answer. Sarojini Naidu visits the bazaars of Hyderabad as a buyer and she first goes to a group of merchants. Merchants refer to the small scale businessmen. So what is she asking to the merchants? She is asking, what do you sell, O ye merchants? Ye refers to you. It was an old way of writing you, and it was used in the plural sense. Because she was referring to a group of merchants, she used the old form of you, which is ye. And what else does she say? She says, all your wares, all your goods are richly presented. They are put in such a manner that they are attracting the buyers towards you. What are the things you have? What exactly are you selling? Then the reply comes. The merchants answer her by saying that turbans of crimson and silver, tunics of purple brocade. So they are selling the turbans. What are the turbans? Well, turban is a long cloth. It's a long piece of cloth worn around the head. You may have seen the Sikh or the Punjabi men wearing the turban on their heads. So what is the color of turbans here? Crimson and silver. Crimson refers to deep red. Deep red color is known as crimson. It's usually the color of fresh blood. They are even selling the tunics. Tunics refer to garments. Garments of purple fabric. Brocade refers to a fabric or cloth. The tunic is made of purple cloth. Mirror with panels of amber, daggers with handles of jade. Besides selling turbans and tunics, the merchants are also selling mirrors and daggers. We all know what's a mirror, and dagger refers to the sword used by the knights or the kings. So how are the mirrors? Mirrors have this panel, this border of amber. Amber is a yellowish brown substance, and it is used to make ornaments or decorative pieces. It's usually used to make the women's jewelry. Similarly, daggers, the swords, have the handle of jade. Jade is another precious stone. It's a green colored stone, and it is also used to make jewelry. This was the information the poetess gets from the merchants. These were the things that the merchants were selling. Now the poetess goes to vendors. Vendors are the sellers. What do you weigh, O ye vendors? Saffron and lentil and rice. Okay, so she goes to vendors and she asks them, what are you weighing? What are you measuring? So what answer does she get? She gets an answer saying that saffron and lentil and rice. A saffron is a very expensive spice, and it is used as a coloring agent in a dish. It is extracted from flowers, and saffron are usually thread-like substances, and they are red in color. So what are the vendors selling? They are selling saffron, lentils. What are lentils? All the pulses and dals are lentils. And then the rice. What do you grind, O ye maidens? Now she is asking a group of maidens. Maiden actually refers to an unmarried girl, but here she is asking the female sellers. What was the question asked by Sarojini Naidu? What are you grinding? What reply does she get? Sandalwood, henna and spice. We all know what is sandalwood. It's a wood that gives amazing fragrance. And henna is used to color or dye the hair, and also some spices. What do you call, O ye peddlers? Jasmine and ivory dyes. So peddlers again refers to sellers, but the difference between vendors and peddlers is that vendor stays in a fixed place. He sits there and sells the products, whereas peddlers, they move from one place to another and they cry out, they announce while they sell the goods, such as fruitmen, okay, the people who sell vegetables. They usually carry a basket and they roam around the colonies and streets. So here the peddlers were selling chessmen and ivory dice. Chessmen are used in the game of chess. Similarly, ivory dice. Ivory refers to a material made of elephant's tooth. Elephant's tooth is used to make a lot of decorative items and also bangles for women. Anything which is made of an elephant's tooth is called ivory. It's usually very expensive. So what is made of ivory here? The dice. Dice is a cubicle which has black spots on it. It is used in various indoor games such as Ludo, etc. These were the answers the poetess gets from vendors, maidens and peddlers. Now the poetess goes to goldsmith. A goldsmith is the one who makes gold ornaments. What do you make, O ye goldsmiths? Wristlets and anklets and ring. Bells for the feet of blue pigeons, frail as a dragonfly's wing. So now she's asking about what were the goldsmiths making. They reply her by saying that they are making wristlets. Here wristlet refers to bracelets, and anklets, another piece of jewelry worn in the feet by women, and a ring. Bells for the feet of blue pigeons. They are also making the tiny bells for the feet of pigeons. Pigeons' feet are usually delicate, so even the bell has to be delicate. It shouldn't be too heavy, otherwise they won't be able to fly. So here the poetess is comparing the bells with the dragonfly's wing. See here, bells for the feet of blue pigeons, frail as a dragonfly's wing. Have you ever observed a dragonfly's wing? It's very frail, very fragile, very sensitive. Similarly, these bells were similar to that of dragonfly's wing, very light in weight and very sensitive. Girdles of gold for dancers. Girdle is again a piece of jewelry worn around the waist. It's worn by women around their waists. Scabbards of gold for the king. Scabbards is the sheath in which the swords are kept. So these were the things that the goldsmiths were making. And then, what do you cry, O ye fruitmen? Citron, pomegranate and plum. What do you play, O ye magicians? Spells for eons to come. So now the poetess visits the fruitmen and she's asking them, what are you crying? Crying here doesn't mean the fruitmen are crying. It just means they are the peddlers. They are not somebody who sit at one place and sell. They move from place to place selling the fruits. So while they sell, they shout out in order to attract buyers. The buyers should know what exactly they are selling. So that is known as crying. A loud voice is known as cry. So what were the fruitmen selling? Citron. Citron refers to the citrus fruits such as lemon, oranges, etc. And pomegranate, you know what it is. And plum. Plum is a very deep red berry. It's very delicious. What do you play, O ye magicians? Spells for eons to come. Now the next question goes to the magicians. What do you play, O ye magicians? Spells for eons to come. So now the magicians were casting their spell. They were chanting something. So what does poet ask? What are you chanting? What is that you are playing? So the magicians say they are chanting spells for eons to come. Eons here in this poem refers to God. In order to call the God, in order to call the divine power, they are chanting a spell. Another meaning of aeon is an indefinitely long period. An extremely long period is called aeon, but here it refers to the divine power. What do you weave, O ye flower girls, with tassels of azure and red? So now the question goes to the flower girls, the girls who sell flowers. So she goes to them and asks, what are you weaving with the tassels? Tassels refer to dangling objects. They are the bunch of threads. Now those threads are of what colors? Azure and red. Azure refers to bright blue color and red. So the tassels were of two colors. One was a bright blue known as azure and red. So what are you doing with these tassels, with these bunch of threads? The flower girls reply, crowns for the brow of a bridegroom, chaplets to garland his bed. So what do the flower girls say? We are weaving the crown for the brow, for the forehead of the bridegroom. You may have seen the dressing of a bridegroom. He usually wears the crown over his forehead and chaplets to garland his bed. Chaplets refer to rosary, a bunch of flowers to decorate his room. Sheets of white blossoms new garnered to perfume the sleep of the dead. Not only are they weaving the flowers for the bridegroom, but also for the dead people's shroud. Flowers are also offered on the dead bodies as a shroud. So they are saying that they are weaving the white flowers to perfume the sleep of the dead. To perfume the sleep of the dead person means to offer in someone's funeral. So this was the poem written by Sarojini Naidu. As you have observed, it was in the form of question and answer. So they were selling various things in the bazaars of Hyderabad. So what idea do you get after going through this piece of work? Well, we get an idea of Sarojini Naidu's love towards the country. And also we get the grandiosity, the traditional beauty of the bazaars of Hyderabad. Now the time has come to talk about the various literary devices used by the poetess Sarojini Naidu. I told you a while ago that literary devices are the devices used by the writers and poets to make their writing more effective. So firstly, we are going to talk about imagery, because there's a great use of imagery in this piece of work. Let's first talk about imagery. See, imagery refers to the mental picture or a mental image. It basically refers to any description which stimulates or sparks up your sense organs. If a description sparks up any of your five senses or all of your five senses, then it is said to be imagery. If we look at the first stanza here, the poet has used the colors crimson, silver, purple, and also she had used some substances such as amber, jade. Now she had described them in such a way that it creates a mental picture. It is a visual imagery used by the poetess. So in the first stanza, she uses visual imagery. It sparks up or stimulates our sense of sight. So there is visual imagery used in the poetry, and also there is gustatory imagery used. What do you mean by gustatory? Something related to taste. So the use of the lentils, rice, saffron, spices, and pomegranates, plum, all of these stimulate the sense of taste. They just spark up the sense of taste, hence they are called gustatory imagery. The first imagery that we understood was visual imagery. All the colors, the description of colors and the description of the objects refers to visual imagery. Similarly, the description of the edible items such as pomegranates, plum and all, that refers to gustatory imagery. It sparks up the sense of taste. Similarly, sandalwood, yes, sandalwood again sparks up the sense of scent. It is fragrant, and also the use of the beautiful flowers. Flowers also give us this amazing fragrance. So that sort of imagery is called olfactory imagery. What is it called? Olfactory. What are the imageries we came across till now? The very first imagery was visual imagery. Second one was gustatory imagery. Gustatory. The third one is the sense of scent. The description of the scent is known as olfactory imagery. And then there is another imagery which stimulates the sense of hearing. It is known as auditory imagery. Whereas the poet used it, well, the casting, the chanting of the spell by the magicians. So when they were chanting a spell, it sparked up the sense of hearing. Okay? It creates a mental picture of the sense of hearing. That is auditory imagery. And then the tactile imagery. Because she compared the bells with the dragonfly's wings. She said they are as delicate, as sensitive to touch as dragonfly's wings. So anything related to the sense of touch is called tactile. So here, with this description, a mental picture is formed. Immediately we compare the bell with the dragonfly's wings, and that's how the sense of touch is stimulated in us. So these are the various imageries used by the poetess. Second literary device used by the poetess is, she had used alliteration. Do you know what is alliteration? Well, alliteration refers to the usage of the words that have the same consonant sound. See, girdles of gold. This is one alliteration because there are two words and they are not very far from each other. They are closely related and they are starting with the same consonant sound. So such use of words, using the words which start with the same consonant sound in the same sentence is called alliteration. Girdles of gold. Similarly, she had used brow of a bridegroom. Here, brow and bridegroom, they start with the same consonant sound and the words are not very far from each other. Such usage of words is called alliteration. So another literary device used by the poetess is, she had used the two figures of speech. What are the two figures of speech, or what is a figure of speech? Well, figures of speech are something which make our normal speech sound more creative. Well, that is what English is all about. Instead of saying something in a very ordinary and casual way, there are many ways of saying sentences in a creative manner. So there are two figures of speech. They are simile and metaphor. What are the two figures of speech? Simile and metaphor. Both these figures of speech are used to make our speech sound more creative and effective. Both of these figures of speech are used to make a comparison between two different things. The difference between simile and metaphor is that simile compares the two non-similar things with the help of the words such as like or as. The comparison between the two things is made with the help of the two words like or as. If I say her voice is like honey, this is a simile. It just means that her voice is similar to that of honey when it comes to the tone of the voice or the sweetness. Is there any comparison between honey and somebody's voice? No. It is just a creative way of saying that a person's voice is sweet. Similarly, I say he is as fast as sports car. Maybe he runs as fast as sports car. I need not go and watch the way he runs. I just form a mental picture of a sports car. It's usually very speed. If I say her hair is like the pineapple's top, how is the pineapple's top? It is spiky and full of rough surface. So here I am trying to say that her hair is similar or as spiky as the pineapple's cover. So the poet has used simile here when she said, frail as a dragonfly's wing. She had compared bells with a dragonfly's wing. There cannot be any comparison between the two, because bell and a dragonfly's wing both are two non-similar, completely different things. Why has she compared it? Well, it's just a creative way of saying that the bells are as sensitive, as fragile as dragonfly's wings. So, similes show some sort of similarity, and whenever there is the use of the words like and as, then it is said to be a simile. There is the use of the word as here, hence it is a simile. Let us now understand about the metaphor. Metaphor is again used for the same purpose, for the comparison, but here we do not use the words such as like or as. We directly say her voice is honey. I am replacing honey with her voice. That is the difference between metaphor and simile. If I say Sarojini Naidu is the nightingale of India, this is one metaphor. What are we doing when we say Sarojini Naidu is the nightingale of India? We are replacing Sarojini Naidu's voice with the voice of the nightingale. The only difference between simile and metaphor is that in metaphor there is no use of the words like and as. Another example of metaphor will be, she cried a river of tears. It is obvious that you cannot make a river with the tears, but When you say she cried a river of tears, it just makes your sentence sound more effective and attractive. Instead of saying a common sentence like she cried a lot, you can say she cried a river of tears. It just means that the person has cried a lot. It's a creative way of saying someone cried a lot. So that is the difference between simile and metaphor. Remember, the pronunciation is simile. It is not simile, nor is it smile. It is simile. So both are similar. The only difference between the two is that simile is used to compare between two different things with the help of the words like and as, whereas metaphor is used to compare two different things directly. There is no use of the words like or as. It replaces one with the other. So I hope you understood what is a simile and what is a metaphor. Now, let us see where has the poet used metaphor. See, the poetess has used the metaphor here in the last line of the last stanza. To perfume the sleep of the dead. Is there any similarity between the sleep and death? No. It just means that the poet is replacing death with the sleep. Death sounds somewhat ordinary and less effective. If she says in the metaphoric sense, it becomes more meaningful and more creative. Sleep of the dead. This is the use of metaphor. So, what were the various literary devices used by the poetess? Well, imagery. Imagery was the very first literary device used by the poetess. She used various imageries like visual imagery, gustatory imagery, olfactory imagery, tactile imagery, and also auditory imagery. After that, she used alliteration. What is alliteration? Well, use of more than two words which have the same consonant sound. And what is another literary device used by her? Well, she used two of them. One is simile, the other one is metaphor. So this was the analysis of the poem in the bazaars of Hyderabad. I hope you enjoyed listening to this. I hope you understood the various literary devices used by the poetess. We shall meet in the next video with some other topic. Until then, goodbye, take care.